Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info. The full programme for the 2019 Manchester International Festival, a biannual event that commissions new works across art forms from artists and companies around the world, was announced at an event on Thursday the 7th of March inside Upper Campfield Market on Deansgate, Manchester. Many of the artists contributing work to the festival appeared at a presentation led by MIF Artistic Director John McGrath to explain what they are planning to do. This is an edited version of that presentation.
My name is John McGrath and I'm Artistic Director of Manchester International Festival. Welcome to the programme launch for Manchester International Festival 2019. Our festival gets underway with another free, large-scale, participatory opening event. Bells for Peace by Yoko Ono, one of the truly great artists of our time. This major new commission, a gathering of thousands of people coming together to ring and sing out for peace, will be on an extraordinary scale, even for Yoko. A joyful response to our complicated times. It takes place in Cathedral Gardens on the 4th of July, and I hope that you will all come along for this unique opportunity to take part in a living artwork. This year's festival sees a number of real artistic legends come to Manchester, and we're delighted to be premiering a major new work by Philip Glass, one of our greatest living composers, in a collaboration with the wonderful Manchester-born director, Phelim McDermott.
In 1985, I was a young student obsessed by Philip Glass's music. He used to come back to Manchester, drive my parents crazy, listening to his music. It's 1985. I go to the London Coliseum and buy a ticket for an opera. It's the premiere of an opera called Akhenaten. I'm very excited. As I'm leaving the theatre, I go into Soho and I spot a person on the street. And I go, is it? Yeah, it's him. It's Philip Glass. He's there. And I'm wondering why no one else has noticed that Philip Glass is wandering around the street. So I follow him. And I wonder about, if I got the chance to speak to him, what would I ask of him? What question would you ask of your musical hero? Cut to 34 years later, to today, and tonight will be the last performance of Akhenaten at the English National Opera, which is an opera that I got a chance to direct. So there's a kind of arc there. Kind of an arc of stalking Philip Glass. 7 years ago, I was talking to the Manchester International Festival. John McGrath said to me, we could do a show, Philip, whatever. And we started working on a show. For whatever reason, this adaptation of a children's book didn't happen, disappeared. And John said, well, is there another show that you could do? If you wanted to do whatever you wanted with Philip Glass, what show would you do? So I'm floating in the flotation tank, and I have a vision. And I see myself on stage. I'm doing puppetry with newspaper, and there's another figure there. It's Philip Glass. He's on stage with me, playing the piano. And I say to John, I've had this idea, maybe me and Philip on stage together. He said, well, you could just go and ask him. So this show has been a kind of dream of daring myself to work with someone who's played an enormous part of my life as a creative inspiration, as a mentor, of slowly trying to entice Philip into a grubby rehearsal room and get him at piano and see if he would have a conversation about things that are important to me and to him, and to see what comes out of that. Some of the answers to the questions I gave him have been that Philip's created 10 pieces of music that he's played and improvised whilst I've been telling stories. One of the great things that happened when I asked Philip, the question that John said ask him was, you know, what's interesting about this project is neither of us know what's going to happen.
So Dam of Glass, created by Philip Glass and Phelim McDermott, will be on for an extensive run during the festival at the Royal Exchange Theatre. Talking of legends coming to Manchester, the Nico project tells the story of the iconic musician, famous for her part in Andy Warhol's Factory and the band The Velvet Underground, but who actually lived here in Manchester for the last decade of her life. The project has been created by Maxine Peake and Sarah Frankham, two artists who have amongst the most long-standing and glorious relationships with the festival. And Maxine is here to tell us about the project today.
Thank you, John. This idea was born out of a conversation that Sarah and myself had. John had approached us again and said, have you got any ideas? And I'd always had this obsession with Nico, with her artistic output, her journey from a model to working with Andy Warhol to being a member of the Velvet Underground. And I'd come across James Young's book, Songs They Don't Play on the Radio, and I said to Sarah, maybe we could adapt this. And Sarah, in her genius, said, we need to do something more than this. There's something about this story that still belongs to the men within Manchester. And what we wanted to do was slightly wrestle back a little bit of that Manchester mythology within the music scene and put some of the women at the forefront. We've got an amazing creative team, all female. Obviously Sarah Frankham, Imogen Knight, the choreographer, Evie Crow, who is producing the text, Anna Klein, the fantastic composer, who is going to reimagine the Marble Index. And that's the piece that Sarah and myself, after many conversations, kept coming back to as the most influential piece of Nico's work for us both. We're going to be working with some young female musicians from the Royal Northern College of Music, and we're going to be performing in Stoller Hall. This is going to be an exploration not just of Nico, but what it means to be female, to be a female artist, and also a celebration of her time in Manchester.
While Nico's time in Manchester is almost a hidden history, the 200th anniversary of the Peterloo massacre this year is now, in part thanks to Maxine's work as an actor and a campaigner, a far better known part of our city's story. Our new commission with the BBC Philharmonic Orchestra, The Anvil, an elegy for Peterloo, marks this landmark event with a major two-part new work. On Sunday, the 7th of July, throughout the day, Anu, one of Europe's most daring theatre companies, will take to the streets for a series of immersive performances created with the communities of Manchester that will be free and accessible to all. And the evening sees the world premiere of a major new musical work by composer Emily Howard and poet Michael Symmons Roberts, two artists from here in the north working together for the first time. And I should add that in the spirit of Peterloo, not only are all the daytime performances across the city free, but every seat for the concert that evening is available for just £10. Another pair of artists working together for the first time are Idris Elba and Kwame Kwei-Armah, two artists at the very top of their game. They'll be telling a story set in today's South Africa, exploring the new universe that sprung up after Mandela in a brand new piece of music theatre that will take place here in this very room. Kwame, I think you're going to tell us a bit about the piece.
I am. Thank you. You've spoiled my gag. I was going to introduce myself as Idris. I'm so excited to be in this space. I actually want to call this my stage because, as John said, that we're going to be here in this brilliant space, but it's not, it's our space, it's Manchester's space. It's this space that we're going to hope to recreate the spirit of South Africa. You know, one of the things that we hope is that people will come into this space and all you'll hear at first is thumping, soulful South African house music. And it's going to be like a club, it's going to be a gig, and we want you dancing and sweating and moving. I'm going to try anyway. This project really excites me because when Idris came to me and he said, listen to my album, Me Mandela, which I pretended that I didn't buy the day that he released it. He said, how can we theatricalize this? And the idea for the both of us was, how do we create the kind of theatre that we want to bring young people to? that we want to bring everybody to, that we want to say that theatre isn't just this static thing where you just come in and you sit on your plush red seats, but actually that you can come in and feel that you're at a club, but also that you can have a story, that there can be a narrative that is soulful, that looks at identity, but also looks at the modern South African experience. I can only say we're really terribly excited to bring this to Manchester, and I hope that each and every one of you stand right at the front so that when Idris jumps off the stage and in, that you're there to catch him. No, he's not in it, but we're gonna want you all to be part. And again, I can only thank you, John, so much for this co-production here with the young Vic, because when we can bring it home to my place, we'd have done all of the work here. No, not really. But thank you. I'm overjoyed at this, and thank you for inviting us.
Another new commission combining an exhilarating range of art forms and an iconic Manchester space will be Invisible Cities, based on the great novel by Italo Calvino. Director Leo Warner, choreographer Sibylle and writer Lolita Chakrabarti will be working with Rambert Dance Company and the amazing digital design studio 59 Productions to create a truly breathtaking new work. Leo, can you tell us a bit more about how the idea came about?
Well, I think the idea came about because I have an addiction to trying to stage impossible to stage stories. The specific challenge that Italo Calvino's amazing novel poses is how to make cities speak like characters in a story. And the scenario that Lolita has created for us imagines these two men, Kublai Khan and Marco Polo, speaking of matters of life and death, but doing so without sharing a common language. So they have to create another language beyond verbal speech. So in my work at 59 Productions, I've been very privileged to work every day with a team of designers, animators and architects, and we've had the opportunity to smash those barriers between the different disciplines. So those sort of design languages are sort of half of the language we're trying to create. It wasn't until Benoit introduced me to the work of Sibylle, our amazing choreographer, that I started to understand what the remainder of that language, what the other half of that language could be. The way that Larbi uses physical movement to communicate narrative and truth and meaning is the other fundamental part of this production. So we're incredibly excited to be mounting this wildly challenging but very, very exciting production.
Brilliant, thank you, Leo. Lolita, can you tell us a bit about what it was like for you to work on this iconic text, Invisible Cities?
It's definitely been challenging. I mean, I soon found out that this is a seminal work that people have real ownership on. This is a weighty tome of the 20th century, but then there are also half of the people I've spoken to don't know this book at all, of whom I'm one of them. And so I had this job to tell the story to people who don't know and people who really hold it personally. The other thing about this amazing piece of literature is that it has no story. So it's got fantastical existential questions and amazing images of these cities of Kublai Khan's empire, but there's no narrative. So my task, should I wish to accept it, was to tell some kind of theatrical, meaningful story that will move and fill these characters with motivation that satisfies those who are very attached to this book and Calvino's amazing words, and those who don't know it at all.
Speaking as someone who does love the book and has read the draft of your script, I really think you've pulled it off.
Oh,
so
thank you.
We're all looking forward to it very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lolita. And Benoit, of course, you're artistic director of Rambert, and absolutely crucial partners in this extraordinary project. You brought Sidi Larbi to the project. Could you tell us a little bit about his work and how he's going to interact with the worlds that Leo and Lolita are creating?
Sure. What I can say first is that Rambert's goal and mission was always to push the boundaries of dance and challenge the audience. So when I saw the work and when I met you and you introduced me to Invisible City, the concept, I right away thought about Larbi Shakari because his work is visceral and I think he's the best partnership, I believe, that because they complement each other, and that with the dancer that we have, they are coming from all over the world, it will complement each other. So it's a really beautiful recipe that I'm looking forward to see as well.
Brilliant. And we're thrilled to be working with Ron there for the first time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're also pleased to welcome the return of our idea strand, Interdependence. There'll be many talks and debates in different formats throughout the festival. And look out in particular for our 3 Saturday summits, inspired by the work in this year's programme. Utopia Now, Future Myths, and Life Hacked. As we continue on our journey towards the factory, the landmark new cultural space being built just a few hundred metres from where we stand right now, we're continuing our series of pre-factory events. And our creative director, Mark Ball, is here to tell us about these shows, giving a taster of what's to come at the factory.
Thank you, John. The factory is a space where the world's best artists can have big ideas. And we're delighted at this year's festival to present new works, like Invisible City, that capture the ambition of the factory and that foreground some of the artists and organisations who have already committed to making new work there. Here are another 4 pre-factory events that are part of this year's festival. The Fountainhead, Ivo van Hove is one of the world's great theatre directors, and we're thrilled to be starting a journey of collaboration and creativity with him and his extraordinary ensemble of actors from International Theatre Amsterdam. He brings 2 profound and provocative projects to MIF 19, the beginning of an exploration of ideas that will continue at the factory in the years to come. The Fountainhead, which has its UK premiere here, is a gripping adaptation of Ayn Rand's uncompromising 20th century classic, a major inspiration for libertarian politicians on both sides of the Atlantic. In Ivo's words, it's a war of ideas, encompassing art and architecture, commerce and capitalism, and it's a hymn to individualism. And in this year, when we're due to leave the European Union, Ivo has also created a special one-off project that he will direct. Recreating Europe explores the notion and essence of Europe through the prose and poetry that have shaped, traced and defined its history, performed by Ivo's ensemble and some of our finest actors, including the wonderful Juliet Stevenson. And I'm delighted to welcome Juliet to read a text by Victor Hugo, written about Europe in 1849. Juliet.
Well, you say today, and I am one of those who say it with you. All of us here, we say to France, to England, to Prussia, to Austria, to Spain, to Italy, to Russia, we say to them, a day will come when you France, you Russia, you Italy, you England, you Germany, you all, nations of the continent, without losing your distinct qualities and your glorious individuality, will be merged closely within a superior unit. And you will form the European Brotherhood, just as Normandy, Brittany, Burgundy, Lorraine, Alsace, all our provinces emerged together in France. A day will come when the only fields of battle will be markets opening up to trade and minds opening up to ideas. A day will come when the bullets and the bombs will be replaced by votes, by the universal suffrage of the peoples, by the venerable arbitration of a great sovereign Senate, which will be to Europe what this Parliament is to England. A day will come when we shall see those 2 immense collectives, the United States of America and the United States of Europe, stretching out their hands across the sea, exchanging their produce, their commerce, their industry, their arts, and their genius. But French and English, Germans, Russians, Slavs, Europeans, Americans, what have we to do in order to hasten the advent of that great day? We must love each other. To love each other is, in this immense labour of pacification, the best manner of aiding God.
Thank you, Juliet. Our neighbour at the factory will be the wonderful Science and Industry Museum, and that meeting of arts and science will provide fertile ground for artists as we develop projects together in the years to come. We're developing that relationship by presenting Atmospheric Memory, a major new work by the Mexican-Canadian artist Rafael Lozano Hemner, co-commissioned with Manchester's pioneering digital company, Future Everything, staged in an extraordinary new custom-built structure in the courtyard of the museum. Raphael has been an artist at the forefront of testing the boundaries between art and technology. And in atmospheric memory, he has created a series of machines and installations that literally materialise sound, transforming it into something that we can see or even touch, like trails of vapour, ripples on water, and epic 360-degree projections. The factory will be a space where artists can experiment, research, and develop ideas. And in this year's festival, we're delighted to be showcasing the early stage of a selection of factory projects. Sir Mark Elber, the musical director of the Halle, and Johan Symmons, the acclaimed Dutch theatre maker, are developing a major new project inspired by the life of the composer Dmitri Shostakovich and Life and Fate, the epic novel by Vasily Grossman. Together they will be discussing this new work at the festival before a performance by the Halle of Shostakovich's extraordinary Symphony No. 7, Leningrad. And finally, creative pioneer and explorer Laurie Anderson, who led our groundbreaking ceremony at the factory, will be in residence at the festival at the Royal Exchange. For the factory, Laurie will be making a new virtual reality opera about the moon. And this year, she'll be showing us a step along that journey, presenting an expanded virtual reality work she's developing with the artist Shen-Chuan Huang.
Utopolis is a visionary new work from one of Europe's most extraordinary theatre companies, Rimini Protocol. Guided across the city by some rather bossy loudspeakers, we'll discover a wonderful range of people and places and ask whether it is still possible to create utopia right here in Manchester. Talking of Manchester, Animals of Manchester will be another joyous and thoroughly unexpected exploration. Sibylle Peters from Theatre Research in Hamburg and Lois Caden from Live Art Development Agency are here with some very special guests to talk to us about it.
Right, in Animals of Manchester, children, artists and other animals are going to create an alternative city, a city of animals including humans, and this will first come about in and around Whitworth Gallery. And if you would like to become a citizen of that city, and I hope you will, then you have to commit to being an animal amongst animals, so no better, no worse than all the others, John. We are going to have lots of interesting stuff in that alternative city. We're going to have an edible Arndale Centre for Squirrels, created by the artist London Fieldworks. We're going to have a human school as opposed to a dog school, where dogs and other pets are going to be the teachers. This is created by Angela Bertram and Crowd Europe. We're going to have a living, digging memorial for extinct species, created by the artist Marcus Coates. Yeah. We're going to have a film studio run by beetles, created by Tim Spooner in Manchester Museum. We're going to have an interspecies family portrait studio run by the artist Benji Reed, a palace for mice and men by Joshua Sofer, and an interspecies family centre with over 100 rescued hedgehogs. We're also going to have a standing conference of animals that will hopefully be, the president will hopefully be a retired dairy cow. We are currently working on that bit. And we're also going to have an aquarium with the artist Martin O'Brien for small humans who wish to be eaten by sharks. Would you like to? And we're also going to have a life art library where we're going to look at the history of animals in performance art and also acknowledge animals as artists for the first time, for the first ever time.
Another great project for all ages is Tuesday by Studio Orca, a celebration of the milestones of life set in a beautiful church in Salford. Here are two of the characters to tell us more.
Hi, I'm Titus. I played a part of Tuesday in the show, and I'm a foundling. My mom left me in the church. And in the show I reflect upon my life, decisions that I made, good ones and bad ones. And here right next to me is my dear friend and memory, Nestor. He's the one that found me in the church and raised me.
I have some heart problems, and since my wife's dead, I have trouble coping with life, and I have a pacemaker. It's quite high-tech. So should my heart ever stop beating?
I can wind him up with this key.
And we're looking forward to MIF, and we hope that by a story we can show how important it is to be for one another. See you there?
To be there for one another. To be for one another.
Flexion pioneer and choreographer Reggie Grainne directed one of the big hits of MIF 2015, Flexion Manchester. This year, Reggie's returning with a new work developed with Manchester-based spoken word collective Young Identity. So another youthful work comes to us courtesy of Chim Pong from Japan, who was selected for the festival by Contact Young Curators. Dance has become an increasingly important part of MIF, and this year we have a wonderful new commission from child-curators.
I'm Karl. I'm a dancer choreographer. I'm originally from Douglas, Georgia. This project is called Maggie the Cat, and it's based on the main character from Tennessee Williams' Cat on the Hot Tin Roof, which many people know from the film, which Elizabeth Taylor played Maggie the Cat. It was a piece I always wanted to do because I've been working for a long time on runway movement, how to bring that into dance vocabulary. It's just Maggie the Cat, catwalk, I always wanted to bring together.
And we're also delighted to be welcoming Claire Cunningham to the festival with Thank You Very Much, an exploration of the world of the Elvis tribute artist as a metaphor for life. Claire, can you tell us a bit about why you're interested in the world of the Elvis tribute artist?
I was interested in the tribute artist because as a choreographer and an artist, I like learning through human interaction, live, learning from people. And I was interested in how Elvis moved, and I wanted to learn it from people as opposed to from video or films. And so it was about that, it was about actually learning from people who had tried to learn how to embody Elvis and got really captivated by how lovely they were as people as well.
And you've also got a particularly exciting cast. Do you want to tell us a bit about who'll be on stage with you?
Yeah, I got to bring together a beautiful group of people. I have Dan Daw and Victoria Malin and Tanya Earhart, all extraordinary dancers and performers that I've known and respected for years. And I was also really interested to work with other performers who self-identify as disabled and are interested in excavating that experience.
And can you tell us a bit about where it's all going to happen and what we can expect?
We're actually up at the Ukrainian Cultural Centre in Cheetham Hill, and partly because I wanted somewhere that had a kind of social club vibe, somewhere that we could have tables around, a bit of that Vegas feel, and somewhere in ETA might perform. And I also kind of thought that it looked a little bit like Graceland. Graceland that maybe not in Dakota paid very well, but yeah, they've been brilliant, so we're looking forward to being there.
I'm sure lots of people will want to join you in Manchester's Graceland during the festival. Work from visual artists this year explores some important issues around identity. Ibrahim Mahama is one of the leading African artists of his generation. Tanya Bruguera is also one of today's most resonant artists. She takes enormous risks in both her art and her life. And Kamangwa Housley from South Africa will also be with us, taking up residence in Central Library throughout the festival, exploring ideas for future large-scale work. And finally, on the visual arts front, but also so much more, in a partnership with Home, we are delighted to be bringing David Lynch's unique sensibility to Manchester for MIF this year. Although he's primarily known for his film and TV work, David is an artist of incredible range. It's particularly exciting to be able to take over the Home building to showcase that range of work. At the centre will be My Head is Disconnected, an exhibition of David's extraordinary body of paintings. But that's not all. There'll be so much more. Talks, debates, masterclasses, films, and Anne Hobbs is here to tell us a bit about the musical side of David's residency and some more of the music we can expect in the festival.
David Lynch at Home in Manchester what an incredible coup. The exciting part for me is that alongside the visual art that you'll see in the sculpture and the programme of cinematic pieces that Home are going to run, David has been curating 3 nights of live music, and I've been helping him a little bit with that. So we're going to whip the veil off that in May, but I think it's going to be quite an extraordinary experience to see hand-picked artists that David really cherishes playing in a very intimate, unique kind of theatre context at home. So yeah, really excited about that. But so much incredible music at MIF this summer. I'm particularly excited to see such a strong presence for women. Chanel Monet, of course, is with us this year, playing at Castlefield Ball. I have to say that I played with her myself at Sonar Festival a few years ago out in Barcelona, and they gave Chanel a very early set time, and I remember standing on the side of the stage next to Mode Selector and Hot Chip, and all of us kind of looking at each other thinking, who the heck is going to be able to follow this? You know, she is just absolutely phenomenal, and we are delighted to have her this year. You've heard, obviously, Yoko Ono is here, Laurie Anderson is here, but we are still delighted also to welcome back Abida Parveen, who's going to be performing at the Laurie. She has Nahid Siddiqui with her, who is just the most extraordinary dancer, and she will respond very organically to Abida's music, which I think is going to just be the most exquisite experience for all of us. Myself, I'm coming back as well, and what I'm going to do this year is show you what the future looks like. I'm bringing 5 of the most exciting female electronic artists in the world together for a show called Queens of the Electronic Underground. And we're going to be performing at the Ritz, which we're going to completely black out. We've got an 8-metre AV screen at the back of the venue to project some incredible visual pieces that the girls are commissioning especially for their shows. So that lineup to me looks like something that's possibly never happened, certainly in Manchester, maybe not on Earth yet, and it's high time we did something like this. So you're looking at Jay Lynn, Holly Herndon, Aisha Devi featuring MFO, who is her visual artist, Clara Lewis, Kaylee Gaiety, and I might spin a few tunes as well, you never know. Finally, I would like to introduce my very special guest. This is really a jewel in the crown at MIF for me. Skepta is in the building. So excited to have Skepta at MIF this year. I would characterise him as possibly one of the most important artists on the face of God's good earth right now. His independent spirit is absolutely incredible, and I think he's configured brand new ways of actually approaching art and music. And yeah, Dystopia, 987. What is this show going to be about, Skep?
Yeah, like rave. It's about rave. You know, rave is a place for love, but I feel like clubs in general has turned into this new like individualism where people just on their phones to have a fake good time. So I want to do a rave, my take on a rave in the future, just about people coming together. It's dystopia, but I'm more thinking of utopia, like getting to utopia, but we have to destroy it to rebuild. I'm saying we have to go down to make things better. So I don't want to say too much about it, but we've got loads of different people together. We've got some creative technology experts, we have good writers, and a good team to make a world. So it won't just be about rave, it will be what I believe rave will be for in the future, why people will come to the rave, just to open your mind, because a rave is a place to open your mind, and we want to bring that to people in the best way possible, really. So we've got a good team of us. Yeah.
It is so important, isn't it, to share that human, physical experience in a real space, you know, when we're all kind of sucked into the digital vortex these days.
Yeah. I know about rave. I from the flyers to the way that you got to the rave, having to show love to someone, to speak to them, to ask them which way do I go, how do I get to this rave. Every way about getting to a rave was all about love and being together with people. And now everyone's in the club on their phone on Instagram, so we're taking everyone's phones away from them.
I love that.
So yeah, phones won't be a part of it, and we're just going to bring everybody together to make a good atmosphere.
Thank you so much. Skepta with Dystopia 987 at MIF 2019.
Thank you, Skepta and Marianne. So, that is the programme for MIF 2019, and I hope you're as excited as I am. Tickets are on sale to members now and on general sale from Friday at 2 p.m. As well as coming along to the shows, there are loads of opportunity to get involved as a participant this year, from joining a community choir in Studio Orcas Tuesday to playing host to Rimini Protocol's Utopolis Manchester, and of course, ringing bells with Yoko. Do check our website for more information about how to join in. And I look forward to welcoming all of you to a truly extraordinary 18 days. Thank you very, very much.
The 2019 Manchester International Festival will take place at various venues from the 4th to the 21st of July. For more information, see mif.co.uk. You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.